Thanks, Devin. We're joined out now by Dr. Shaista Khilji, a professor of human and organizational learning and international affairs at GW. Dr. Khilji recently co-authored new research on the workplace experiences of women in engineering careers. Thanks for being here, Dr. Khilji.
You're welcome.
So your research focused on the coping mechanisms that women use in predominantly male-dominated engineering fields. Could you explain a little bit about what motivated that research and then what you found?
So I've been interested in the idea of glass ceiling. I think it continues to persist within corporations, particularly within United States and North America. I've previously conducted some research related to how women define success in professional careers. So this research is focused on women in women engineers, and what kind of challenges are they faced with. So research does indicate that there are gender barriers within organizations, and particularly in engineering fields, because engineering field is so male dominated. So based upon that idea, that hunch, and that research, what we decided to do is focus on women and how they experience careers and how they define and describe those careers. It was important personally for me to examine their careers as they describe them, because I've always felt that social norms regarding women's role in society have not evolved, whereas women themselves have evolved in terms of how they define their careers and how they define their work in different organizations. So based upon that idea, we wanted to see how women describe their careers. It was a very interesting study, qualitative, in-depth, and that's another problem with research, because most of the research happens to be quantitative in nature. So we talk to women in details with regards to what their careers are like and what challenges are they faced with, and how do they overcome and address those challenges. And what we found was very interesting. Number one, not a surprise to anyone, is that there are structural and cultural barriers within organizations that do prohibit women, or that arise as challenges to women, because women's careers are not, they do not follow a traditional pattern. Women's careers oftentimes are non-linear, whereas our ideas within organizations is that all careers are linear and they would follow a certain traditional career path. We also found that gender norm persist within organizations. Again, that's not a surprise. But what I find to be very interesting is that women are very much aware, women engineers are very much aware of the challenges that they are faced with, and they're faced with these challenges in everyday life, in how they attend meetings, in how they interact with other individuals within organizations. Sometimes women find themselves that it's hard for others to accept women as engineers, because it's considered to be such a male-dominated profession, we found women to be very proactive, aware, and we found them to follow actually 3 different strategies in terms of coping the challenges that they're faced with. Number one, we found them to accept the norms. Number 2, we found them to also negotiate the norms that they were faced with. And thirdly, and most interestingly, we found them to defy the norms. And we can't categorize women as pursuing one coping strategy or the other coping strategy. What we found that each woman was actually pursuing or using all of these strategies depending upon the situation and the context they found themselves in. So there were occasions or instances where women defied the norms that they were up against, and there were instances where women understood the norms and they realized it was actually in their interest not to defy the norms, but to negotiate it or accept it.
So what do you think this research, how it applies to female engineering students now? Do you think that this is something they'll have to consider as they also start entering the profession?
Absolutely. I think women engineers, as they step into workplaces, they should realize, and I think many of them do, that workplaces in general are very gendered, and particularly engineering field, because it happens to be a male-dominated profession.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for shedding light on these women's experiences, and thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Back to you, Nolan.